And I'm not concerned whether Nancy Pelosi likes me. I don't care whether Chuck Schumer likes me. I don't care whether what's his name in South Carolina, you know Joe and we know Joe and all. Who's that? Clyburn, Jim Clyburn. I don't care about whether Jim Clyburn likes me. What I care about are Jim Clyburn's constituents and the folks that were just as poor when Clyburn came into office. They're just as poor today as they were when he got there. That's what I care about.
Well, hello, everyone, and top of this Wednesday hump day to you. You are with Urban Interest. I am your host, Angela Matthews. Today on Urban Interest, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to bring to you Ghana's President, Nana Akufo-Addo address to the National Black Caucus of State Legislators in Atlanta. Let's take a look at what the President of Ghana has to say to the National Black Caucus.
Ladies and gentlemen, easily the most ambitious program we in Ghana have mounted in our dealings with the African diaspora was the organization of the Year of Return in 2019, which was a major landmark spiritual and birthright journey, inviting the global African family, home and abroad, to celebrate the cumulative resilience of all victims of the transatlantic slave trade, who were scattered and displaced throughout the world in North America, South America, the Caribbean, Europe, and Asia. It brought some 750,000 members of the global family to Ghana in that year. Ghana's connection with the African diaspora predates our independence. During our struggle for independence, our leaders reached out to the African diaspora. Notable amongst them was Kwame Nkrumah, educated in the 1930s at the famous black university, Lincoln University in Philadelphia, who was to become the first president of the free nation. Some very well-known diasporan Africans came to live in the newly independent Ghana: George Padmore, W.E.B. Du Bois, Maya Angelou, Bill Sutherland, to name but a few. In 1992, Ghana adopted the Pan-African Historical Theatre Festival, PANAFEST, as a cultural vehicle for bringing Africans on the continent in the diaspora together around issues of the arts and culture. To coincide with the 50th anniversary of the country's independence in 2007, and in commemoration of the 200th anniversary of the abolition of the North Atlantic slave trade, the Joseph Project was launched to provide an avenue for healing and cultural exchanges between Ghanaians and the African American community. The Year of Return, held in 2019, has become the pivot around which engagements with the diasporan African family and Ghana revolves. The Follow-Up Project, Beyond the Return, seeks now to create opportunities across several sectors of the economy and provide a platform for sustained dialogue amongst people of African descent. Currently, we're creating platforms for adoption of legal frameworks in key sectors to drive diaspora engagements. This has culminated in the Homeland Return Bill, on which we're currently working. The Homeland Return Bill recognizes Ghana's moral and spiritual obligation as an African nation to facilitate the return of diaspora Africans to Ghana and the motherland, and to initiate the legal and regulatory processes for integrating them into Ghanaian society. When enacted, the law will provide the much-needed regulatory and practical changes to improve the requirements for the acquisition of Ghanaian citizenship and permanent residence by diasporan Africans. Indeed, in the Year of Return, I granted citizenship to 126 members of the diasporic community in Ghana of African Americans and Caribbeans. All of us gathered here should never forget the famous admonition of the iconic Jamaican reggae star Peter Tosh, when he said, and I quote, "Don't care where you come from. As long as you're a black man, you're an African."
President Ado had this to say with regards to his address as he closed, that all black people everywhere will be judged by the success of Africa. We'll continue to keep you abreast of this particular story. You cannot say that the group Detroit Will Breathe, that they are fair weather protesters. They were in the very cold in downtown Detroit this week protesting their initiative, the Great Reset. Let's take a look.
Never let a good crisis go to waste. Winston Churchill's famous words from the darkest days of World War II have taken on a more sinister meaning as the decades have passed. This quote was actually meant to be an inspirational message of hope to the British people, but these days, more cynical onlookers see that people with ill intent can use a crisis just as well as those who are virtuous. The Great Reset is a collective name given to a series of economic policies that are attempting to use the recovery from the coronavirus as a way to supposedly build a better, brighter, more sustainable future. This policy was first unveiled by the World Economic Forum and the United Kingdom's Prince Charles, and since its announcement, it has gathered support from a laundry list of economists, politicians, business people, and celebrities. But it has also gathered a fair bit of criticism. Just 72 hours after its announcement, a petition to stop it gained 80,000 signatures, which is kind of fair enough. The whole premise of this proposal does sound very ominous. Economic plans titled The Great Something have not exactly had the best track record. The fact that this plan is leveraging a disaster alongside the fact that it is pushing some pretty spicy policies means that major conspiracy theories have surfaced, ranging from this plan will make us all poorer, all the way up to this plan will make us all slaves to the lizard people. Now in fairness, the marketing around this Great Reset has not helped its case at all. If someone was to try and research what this plan actually was, they would be presented with two extremely bizarre ads that explain absolutely nothing, and a 2-hour panel which is extremely boring even to a major economics nerd like myself, and also kind of equally as unhelpful. We know this because, well, we had to research this plan to make this video, so it sounds like some economics need to be explained. And to properly do this, we're going to need to look at a few key questions. What is the Great Reset actually proposing to do? Do these ideas have any merit? Who are the players involved in pushing this agenda? And is this actually a nefarious scheme or just the victim of terrible marketing?
The Detroit Will Breathe demonstration was so effective, the World Economic Forum had to reschedule. We will bring you more information as we receive it about this particular story. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the African American position, especially in these days and times. And we're going to talk to Dr. Wilbur J. Leon III. So stay put. We'll be right back.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick.
The virus will die.
It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine.
To keep safe and strong.
Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
911, what's your emergency?
Oh my God! A child just died!
Signal 13 involving a child. The medicine route.
It is time. Time to put the guns down. We've had enough. My future.
My future.
My future. Our futures are in your hands.
Adults, put the guns down.
Wanna play? Sleep.
Walk to school.
Visit my friends. I want to feel safe.
It's time.
time to end gun violence.
Our lives depend on it.
Adults, this is not a request.
We demand that you protect us.
Put the guns down! We have hope!
Dreams.
Goals.
Don't let a split second of anger with someone else take away my entire lifetime.
Help us live.
Help us thrive!
Help us build a better future.
All right, everyone, you are still hanging out with Urban Interests. Listen, we're going to segue into a conversation about the African American position. You know, we thought that maybe things would be a little bit different as the current administration, took the reins. However, we're going to get into a little deeper dive into where we are with this particular administration, as well as in the 21st century. So we have a very dynamic guest with us. We have Dr. Wilmer J. Leon III. He is the author of Politics, Another Perspective. He is also a political scientist who earned a bachelor's in science degree in poli-science, the political science, from Hampton Institute, a master's in public administrations from Howard University, and his doctorate in political science from Howard University. For 11 years, Dr. Leon was a lecturer in the political science department at Howard University, and currently Dr. Leon is a nationally broadcast radio talk show host on Sirius XM and a nationally syndicated columnist with the Trice Etnie Newswire. We've got a good guest with us this morning. He is a regular contributor to over 200 newspapers and websites across the country. He can also be seen as a regular contributor and analyst on international television news programs such as Press TV and RTTV. I wanted to let you know who we've got in the house today. Dr. Leon, how are you?
I am well. Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
You know what, when we came on, I said I would love to be in your office, full of history and full of education. And so tell us, Dr. Leon, as all I have read, what drives you?
Wow. What drives me is the politics that are impacting the African American community as it relates to equality and justice. We continue to be second-class citizens in this so-called democracy. We're in a system, for example, that champions one person, one vote, but we can't get a voting rights bill passed to protect that right to vote. We're in a system that champions the 14th Amendment and equal protection under law. And we are still subjected to extrajudicial murder by the police. So it's trying to find the paths and trying to find the politics and the policies that can remedy those maladies as well as many others that drives me.
You know, Dr. Leon, we're about ending this year of 2021, but it seems as though we've been in it for a long time. It seems as though it's like 3 years. This time is just winding up. So what are the most pressing issues from your perspective for the African American community?
Well, again, of course, equality and justice, access to equal education, employment, equality and justice. Those are the things that I think are really driving us. I mean, are incredibly important in our community, and we have to get out of this what I call a binary mode of thinking. And it's either Democrat or Republican. It's either Joe Biden or it's this or that, because the world is too complex, and our situation, our circumstance is too tenuous and too complex in order to be solved by binary thinking. And so we have to start really thinking outside the box and learning from our history, but implementing and forging different approaches so that we can prepare ourselves for what's to come.
So Dr. Leon, we've been talking about this for, I don't know, quite a long time when we talk about, more access to education, job market, the economy, and the pandemic blew a lot of things up, brought a lot of things to surface, and here it is. And there are a lot of things that have changed. We have more Black millionaires, multimillionaires, a couple of billionaires. We have some people that are shaping some things and building communities, such as I do believe, what is his name? T.I., brought a whole neighborhood and went back and is building up. So are things getting better, Dr. Leon, with what we're seeing, or are we remaining in that tenuous situation that you just mentioned?
No, I don't think things are getting better at all. Because we tend to look at the plight of the individual, and we've always, as a community, since we arrived on these shores in 1619, we've all at Port Comfort, Virginia, near my alma mater, Hampton Institute, by the way, we've always been able to find the individual that is doing better or doing well. We've got more Black millionaires, but what's the rate of poverty? What's the rate of unemployment? Because for us, it's never been about the individual. For us, it's always been about the collective. It's always been about what Du Bois labeled the souls of Black folk. He did not write about the soul of some guy or the soul of some woman. Mrs. Hamer didn't sacrifice her life so that she could vote. She sacrificed so that we could vote. And we, unfortunately, I believe, have gotten caught up in these politics of individual success, individualism, Black capitalism, which helps the individual, but still leaves the community behind.
So Dr. Leon, what can we do to really change this course? Because we've been talking about this for quite a while.
Well, a number of things. First of all, we have to read. I mean, I don't have these books in my office for decoration. We have to read. Our politics has to mature. And the way that our politics matures is through people in the community have to start reading. And we have to start reading not to validate our own particular positions. We have to start reading to expand our perspective, to expand our Weltanschauung, our worldview. And then we're able to view the world in our place in the world in a different way. We have spent an awful lot of time. I'll speak in very general terms just to keep it simple. We have spent an inordinate amount of time in this country as Africans in America and now African Americans being concerned about being liked, and we have lost the understanding of being respected, let alone being feared. And so that takes us again back into this binary thinking. It's either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. And once you lock yourself into that, failing to realize we don't have permanent friends, we don't have permanent enemies, but we do have permanent interests, and locking into those interests, and then plotting, planning, developing the policy that will get those interests funded and implemented. And I'm not concerned whether Nancy Pelosi likes me. I don't care whether Chuck Schumer likes me. I don't care whether what's his name in South Carolina, Joe and we know Joe and all. Who's that? Clyburn, Jim Clyburn. I don't care about whether Jim Clyburn likes me. What I care about are Jim Clyburn's constituents and the folks that were just as poor when Clyburn came into office. They're just as poor today as they were when he got there. That's what I care about. And that's where our focus needs to be. Unfortunately, we're caught up in the individualism. We're caught up in the mythology of the current mythology of without the Democratic Party, where would we be? And I'm not advocating one or the other. the politics has to mature. And the only way that politics matures is by reading and by grassroots organization, and not relying, not depending on a party to fund our interests, to control our interests. It's up for us to do. Politics, another perspective, is the
So,
title of the
Dr.
book.
Leon, let's stick with this reading for just a moment.
Mhm.
So we have technology that has definitely advanced a lot
Correct.
of, us in many different areas. Has technology with regards to reading, because we can Google everything in a nanosecond and right there at our fingertips. Has it been an addition to the decrease in our, I would say, interest or thrive with reading?
Again, I'll speak in very general terms and say no.
Okay.
Because, and also what we have to start talking about is the technocracy, which is the fourth, I think, agrarian, industrial, the fourth or fifth iteration of the American economy. We're moving into a technocracy where we are being displaced in terms of workers. And there's no thought, there's really no discussion about this, but back to your question about the technology itself. No, for all intents and purposes, the technology is not expanding our insight. I'm saying to my students all the time, you've got this device in your hand, you've got the world in your hand. You can call anybody in the world. You can pull up any newspaper in the world that you want to get access to and read an op-ed or get a deeper understanding of a particular issue. And y'all are sending me jokes and sending me memes and pictures of you eating a hamburger or your cheeseburger or your big sandwich at a deli. How is that moving our politics forward? It's not. So we have for example, we have a lot of people in this country right now that believe that China is our enemy. Or you have a lot of people right now that think that Russia wants to invade Ukraine. First of all, can you find Ukraine on a map of the Ukraine? Probably can't. But turn on any mainstream corporate media outlet and they're going to tell you we're preparing for Russia to invade Ukraine. What they're not telling you is the reason that Russia is moving troops within its own country closer to its border with the Ukraine is because the United States is moving people, moving missiles, and the United States is convincing the Ukraine to move troops. So Russia's move is a reaction to the United States move. But if you don't read, you'll walk around here thinking that Russia is about to invade Ukraine. And whenever I have this conversation with folks, I ask them, by the way, where are the weapons of mass destruction that were in Iraq? Were they ever found? No. Why? Because they're lying to you. But you wouldn't know that if you don't read.
So let's dive into that, because you do segue into something I want to talk about, because you discuss important matters. You just said mainstream or white media never, they never touch. So, the truth, bringing out all perspectives, both perspectives, because I did hear about the President Biden speaking with Putin,
Vladimir Putin,
and saying something to the effect of, what
if
happened in
you
2014 won't happen, and if you move forward, then we are going to answer with consequences.
Right. Which is a bunch of nonsense. First of all, we have to understand Joe Biden is about to have his democracy summit, right? Why is it, Joe Biden, if you're having a democracy summit, did the United States overthrow the democratically elected, I think it's Lukashenko government in Ukraine in 2014? Why is the United States trying to overthrow Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, who was elected democratically overwhelmingly? Look at the elections in Nicaragua. Look at the elections in Bolivia recently. All of these countries having elections, free and fair elections, We tried to overthrow al-Assad in Syria. He just had an election. He won by over 86% of the vote. Another democracy. That the United States, because we don't like the people they select, we cry foul, and then we want to invade their countries, or we want to impose sanctions on their countries. We're being told now what? That Xi Jinping in China is an evil dictator and an autocrat. But when you look at the polls done by Harvard, for example, close to 90% of people in China like their government. Well, if the Chinese people like their government, who are we to say who should govern their country? So, but you won't know this if you don't read.
Or you don't read past the title,
yes,
of the article and the first paragraph.
And if you're not afraid to read things that, again, just validate what you believe to be true, instead of reading things that will challenge your thinking and force you to answer questions, is the story I'm reading really making sense? Look at what we're doing in Haiti. Look at what we're doing in Cuba. And ask yourself why, and ask yourself, is what we're doing in those countries in the best interest of the people in those countries?
There you go.
Overwhelmingly, the answer will be no.
That's a very good question. Is what we're doing for the best interest of the people in those countries, as opposed to in our best interest over here in America?
Exactly.
My goodness. And so we know, Dr. Leon, that even with the conversation that we are having, people still get their news, from corporate, from mainstream media.
Sure.
And so you are very well respected in your field, and definitely have been in this arena longer than myself or any others who will watch this particular segment. And so I know the reason why we should get, analysis from other people such as yourself, but I would like our audience to hear it from you, why we need to truly expand our base of information.
Because you have to understand the interests that are being served by the messages that you're being given. And most of what you're hearing on mainstream media is funded through or in support of the military-industrial complex, which former President Eisenhower warned us about in his farewell address to the United States in 1960. It's a culmination or a confluence of interests. Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, was on the board of Raytheon Corporation, who's the largest missile manufacturer in the world. Raytheon Corporation. Why would we have a Secretary of Defense, even though he was a general? Why would we have and by the way, Secretary of Defense is supposed to be a civilian position, not a military position. Why would we have a Secretary of Defense who was on the board of directors of the largest missile manufacturer in the world? And then ask yourself, why are we sending missiles to Saudi Arabia so that they can obliterate the poorest nation, Yemen, in the world? That's just an example of whose interests are being served by the information that you're being given. So when you look at Lockheed Martin, look at who sponsors Meet the Press. When you look at Archer's Daniel Midland, when you look at Lockheed Martin, when you look at Raytheon, when you look at GE, which is one of the largest defense contractors, they make engines for jet aircraft, and Boeing, who make, so the CEO of Boeing was asked during the last election, who did Boeing prefer, Trump or Biden? And he said, doesn't matter to us, we're going to get paid anyway. And you could look that one up. He wasn't ashamed to say it. And they made $16 billion in that one particular quarter. So when you look at whose interests are being promoted and whose interests are being served by convincing you that China is our enemy, that Russia is our enemy, that Iran is, why is it that everybody in the world is our enemy?
Isn't that something?
Why?
Everybody.
And we go around starting a lot of these fights. Y'all are based in Detroit, I believe, right? So yes. I think y'all are familiar with the term off the corner, don't start nothing, won't be nothing. So why is it that China's mad with us, Russia's mad at us, Iran's mad with us? So, pick a country. And why are we backing the TPLA in Tigray against the established Ethiopian government in Ethiopia? Why is that? Ask yourself, don't just fall for the information of what's happening. Ask yourself, why is it happening? And when you get to that, ask yourself, does that answer make sense? And if it doesn't, then you got to read a little more.
All right. Why is it happening and does it make sense? Very two poignant questions we should be asking ourselves.
Absolutely.
Dr. Leon, before I let you go, because you and I definitely have this conversation over, I don't know, a couple of hours, because there's so many questions to ask you. Thank you so much for being with us. Biden is planning to spend like billions of dollars to save local media. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, we're local media.
Oh, that's a phenomenal, wonderful, necessary idea. The question really is, will it pass? And not only will it pass, but will it be funded at the levels that Biden promoted? And the example that I use for that is, what happened to the $70 billion that were supposed to go to HBCUs in this country that Joe Biden promised us on the campaign trail? What happened to that $70 billion? Oh, it went away. What happened to free college in this country that Joe Biden promised us? Well, it became free community college, which in of itself would be a wonderful thing if he got it funded. But what happened to it? Oh, it went away. And see, this isn't haterade. This isn't me making stuff up. Joe Biden told me that. Joe Biden told you that. Jim Clyburn told us we know Joe and Joe knows us. There's a phenomenal book by a guy, Branko Martich. It's called Yesterday's Man. I got it. Anyway, somewhere back there. Yesterday's Man. The Joe Biden that you're seeing today is the Joe Biden that we've always seen. He's a corporatist. He's a Zionist. That's always been Joe Biden. Nothing new there, particularly from an 82-year-old. I think he's 82. That leopard ain't gonna change his spots. So getting back to answering your question. It's a wonderful idea. Mm-hmm. The question is, will it be passed? Will it be funded? Will it be implemented? And I would venture to guess it won't be, because with Joe Biden as a corporatist, his interest is supporting NBC. His interest is in supporting ABC and the consolidation of media, not the expansion of access to media. That's not his interest, because when you expand access to media, you then expand access to information. And when you expand access to information, you have more people like me saying, Joe, you told me $70 billion to Hampton and to Howard and to Fisk. Where's the beef?
Oh my goodness. Now I got another question to ask you before I let you go, Dr. Leon. Sure. So what has President Biden done with regards to Black America that that it was a political, it was his agenda, it was his platform? Has any of those things come to fruition? I see a lot of other initiatives that he spoke about on his campaign with regards to, other cultures and other people. What have we gotten in this particular situation? What has come to us?
Nothing. Zero. Not a thing. Not a thing. Nothing. But a bunch of hot air. Where's the $70 billion for HBCUs? You know, I got it. We got Kamala Harris. That's what we got. We got Kamala Harris as a vice president. That's what we got. Oh, that's why we got nothing.
And they're not even talking. Did he talk about reparations?
He mentioned it. He mumbled about rep. He hit all of the salient,
all of our heartstrings
issues, played on our heartstrings. Why hasn't he used his bully pulpit to champion and rally the troops behind the John Lewis voting rights bill? Why hasn't he done that? He use your bully pulpit. They call it the bully pulpit for a reason. They say the president has the largest megaphone in the world. Here's why. Because the Democratic Party loves to court us, does not want to marry us.
Ooh.
They do not, because their primary interest is the white male middle class voter. They do not want to ever be perceived as being a party of black people or black interests. So on the campaign trail, they'll tell you everything and won't deliver nothing. But we don't have a black caucus that is willing to challenge the established elite Democratic leadership and call them out for the failures for not meeting our needs. So, you know, you get what you vote for.
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
You get what you vote for.
So with what you just, that was powerful. They want to court us but not marry us.
Right.
That's just powerful. So here we are, of course, going into 2022. All of these elections from now up until 2024 is definitely going to be important. We need to vote in the local election as well as the national. Where are we sitting in your experience perspective for 2024? I don't see any rising up of new leadership, within the Democratic Party, as well as you said that that microphone that the president has is vast, and that's why the previous administration wants to get it back. So what are we looking like for 2024, Dr. Leon?
Oh, it's going to be ugly. And as we sit here right now, right? What's today? The 8th.
Yes.
As we sit here, the 8th of December, and so barring him getting arrested for tax evasion or some other, pictures of him with barnyard animals, Donald Trump is going to be your president in 2024. The Democrats are going to lose the House and the Senate in 2022 in midterms, the same way they did in the Obama administration, and for the same reasons, because they don't deliver.
Oh, that's scary.
They don't deliver.
I'm gonna do a lot of praying, Dr. Leon.
Hey, that's not gonna help you.
Woo! Goodness gracious.
No.
To have that administration, all of that come back into
that's
presidency.
Coming back. And here's why. Because you asked the question, what has Joe Biden given us? Nothing other than jingoistic saber rattling towards North Korea, jingoistic saber rattling towards China, jingoistic saber rattling towards Cuba, towards Russia. One of my biggest issues, and one of the biggest things I look at, is the wealth gap.
Yes.
That to me is a very clear data point of where we are in this country and why. And the last time I looked at the numbers, I want to say the average wealth of a white family was about $171,000, and the average wealth for an African American family was $17,000. Yeah, $17,000. So that to me is one of the key data points that we need to look at to give us an indication in terms of how we are faring and how tenuous our position is in this country. And so when you look at that data, how do we correct it? Well, you correct it with education. You correct it with employment. You correct it with doing away with redlining in banks and other types of things. But that right there tells me that we are not in a very good space at all.
My God, those figures, 171,000 versus 17,000.
And that number, depending on what study you look at, right, the number, sometimes it's 150 to 15, but it's about a 10-time difference. And we are woefully behind. And a lot of that has to do with home ownership, because particularly in the middle class, your greatest asset tends to be the value of your home. Well, when you go back to the Obama administration and you look at the mortgage crisis and how many of us lost our homes during the mortgage crisis, and we have yet been able to recover those assets, therein to a great degree lies the basis of your number. Home ownership.
My goodness. Well, Dr. Leon.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, thank you for the invitation.
Being with us.
Anytime. I'll come on anytime.
Yes, we definitely will have you to come back on. Before you leave, though.
Yes.
I know we talked about kind of foreign policies. What do we need to keep our eyes out on and to listen for before you leave? If you could give us one thing.
This war chant. They just passed the National Defense Authorization Act. Something, what was it? Close to like $80 billion for this year. Something like 15 billion more than the administration asked for out of a democratically controlled Congress. We can't get the Build Back Better bill through, right? So we can't get childcare. We can't get $15 minimum wage. We can't get hearing aids and dental coverage for those on Medicare. We can't get the prescription drug negotiations through. Can't get none of that done. Oh, we can't do any of that. Oh, we don't have enough money to do that. But we got $80 billion more to send to the Department of Defense. For what? For what? So that's why we have to pay attention to the international foreign policy front, because that's where your tax dollars are going on the domestic front. So they want to build bridges and roads and all of that's great and cool, but where does most of that money go? Most of that money doesn't come into our pockets. That highway money is not going to allow you to have affordable childcare for your kids so you can go back to work. No, it's not going to raise the salaries of teachers in your school district so that you can get better education for your children. No, but it's a democratically controlled Congress that passed that National Defense Authorization Act without a burp, a blip, or a complaint.
My. Dr. Wilmer J. Leon III, he is the author of Politics, Another Perspective, syndicated talk show host. He's on Sirius XM. Check him out. Listen to his analysis. He's been in this a long time and has a wealth of information. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you. And we will come back with you in the very, very, very near future.
Looking forward to it.
All right.
Take care.
All right, everyone, we're going to wrap up this segment of Urban Interest. We will come back after these messages, so stay put.
Today, we bring you the first part of our global broadcast exclusive conversation.
The streets of Tahrir have once again been filled.
Key issues here at the United Nations Climate Change Conference
You clear?
Unresolved. Police are saying the protesters to further away.
Take care.
I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!